period today and it hurts so badly. This is what you picture girls being like when they get their period, is being like, I can't do anything. But I genuinely feel like shit right now. And it's crazy because not every period is like this. It's only sometimes that I have really painful periods, and then other months it's as if nothing's even different. I was expecting to go to the gym today. I'm still going to do a workout like I was hoping to do. I'm just going to do it at home. I talked briefly in the beginning of this video about me viewing our cycles as seasons. And I got this idea originally from a little infographic that I had seen online. And I'm going to put it on the screen right now so you guys can see what it looks like. And it basically is talking about specifically food by phases, and it's referring to like eating based off of the seasons. But I want to talk about what I think the way that our bodies are going through these phases, because I think it's given myself a lot more empathy towards myself to be able to like handle these situations with more grace, with more ease, with more love, and to feel a lot lighter about it and not feel like angry at my body for feeling this way. Our bodies every month are trying to get pregnant. Your body is basically programmed in a way to, first of all, have phases of wanting to have sex, like the ovulation phase. I'll talk about that when we're actually in that phase, but we go through that phase and then we go through our luteal phase, which is basically where our body is like, are we pregnant, are we not pregnant, like what happened? And it's kind of figuring out that we didn't get pregnant. Then we go into our winter phase, which I'm in right now. It's our menstrual phase. And I like to think of that as our body grieving the lack of pregnancy, because basically we're releasing the eggs that have not been, from what I understand, I'm not like a doctor or anything here, but from what I understand, we're releasing the eggs and all of the stuff that is within us that would have gone towards making that baby. We're now like releasing that and letting it go. And so I kind of view it as our body is almost grieving the lack of doing its job in a way, because it has like a system that it's trying to do, right? And we're not doing it, and so then it's having to release and hope that next month something happens. I like to take this time in my month to really just like be with my body and to allow my body to feel my emotions, to allow my body to feel relaxed and nurtured and loved and validated. And I also like to be very introspective. I like to journal a lot during this time and think a lot about what's happened over the past month, the things that I've done the past month, the habits I've developed or haven't developed, what I want to do going forward, and kind of just like sit down with myself and like plan everything. And this isn't always like an actual intentional thing. It just sometimes happens to be that way. Like I just find myself being more reflective and stuff at this time of the month. And so I've realized that that is something that makes sense with what the phase is. I also want to mention that another thing I notice about the whole seasons analogy is that we flow from one to another in the exact same way that a season does. So there's a lot of overlap. I just think, I don't know, there's something kind of like beautiful about it, and like viewing it that way. It's really interesting the way that our bodies are like reflective of nature in so many ways, and this just happens to be one. But I wrote a list of things that I think is helpful to know for this month, and things that I do that I think maybe you want to try out. I like to do a lot of restorative yoga during this time, so it's like a lot of deep stretching, as well as I like to try Pilates sometimes during this time. I don't like to do anything too high intensity, so it's a lot of like low impact workouts. I also like to go on a lot of walks and hikes and just sitting out in my backyard and having a lot of like time in nature. Another thing is journaling and reflecting. I mentioned that before. I also like to spend a lot of time inside. I like to rest and do less heavy tasks. So this could mean that I like to do my more day-to-day things and not necessarily start to like completely revamp my entire house, or maybe not take on an entire project at this time, but doing like smaller, more mundane tasks and getting like the little tasks done at this time, because I just have a little bit of less energy. I also find myself not as social during this time. If I am out with people, I find myself to be a lot more quiet, a lot more reserved, a lot more in my mind, and sometimes I do like beat myself up for it. I'm like, you should be like entertaining them, you should be giving your energy, you should be like, you know, super excited and have a lot to say, but I find that I just don't. Like, I went out with my friends yesterday. I just found myself being really quiet in a lot of moments where I wouldn't be, and I started to feel a little uncomfortable because of it. But then I realized, like, it is what it is. Like, these people know me, they get to see me in all these different phases. that I go through, as we all do, not just necessarily with menstruation and like that cycle, but just in life. And so yeah, it's okay if you're not always the same exact way that you usually are. In the food category, it's important to prioritize healthy fats and protein. So you want to eat a lot of warm foods like soups, root vegetables, seafood, and also adding sea salt to your food. I don't know too much about all of this. I've just kind of written down some things for myself to note during these times. I'm not necessarily super strict on it, but it would be best if you treated it like this. Again, it's thinking of winter. If you were in winter, what would you eat? That's kind of how I treat it. It's just like, if I was in winter right now, what would I do for my body? How would I treat my body? A lot of warmth, a lot of coziness, a lot of nurturing, a lot of like kind of heavy food. The next thing I'm going to say is Aleve for cramps. I think I've talked about this before on my channel, but my doctor has told me to take Aleve and not necessarily just Tylenol or Advil. Aleve actually stops the cramping that's happening in your body, so it actually alleviates that feeling of cramping. So it feels a lot better, or something along those lines. All I know is Aleve is one of the only medications that works for me during my cramping, so yeah. Another one is hot water bottles. Kind of plays into the whole coziness thing, but it also just really helps with the cramps. The last thing I want to talk about is my form of sanitary products for my period. This is very TMI, but I do want to talk about it because I think it's something that we don't really talk about often, and it's something that literally every single girl is going to go through and use, so we need to just normalize it and not make it this weird thing. I used to always use tampons. For the longest time, I would always use tampons, but I've actually transitioned into using menstrual cups. And I remember when like the first Diva cup came out, it was like such a weird thing. Like everyone was like, oh my god, like a Diva cup, like ew, like it was kind of like a joke in a way. But I think it's a lot more common now, and I think there's a lot more information on how to use it properly and how to be able to use it in a way that feels comfortable and that works. And I just have a few little things I want to talk about it. So first of all, they're not uncomfortable. They're actually very comfortable. I don't even feel it at all right now. The process of learning to be able to put it in is kind of a learning curve. So I actually used panty liners while I was using them at the first like month or two, just to make sure that if I leaked, I wasn't like actually leaking. It would just be, you know, like it's like a little test run. I'm training myself. Also, they come in different sizes. So if you have a heavier flow, that is still an option for you. And you don't really have to change it that often. For me, my flow is, I would say, light to medium. It's mainly the heaviest on like the first few days, but I can pretty much go the entire day without having to change it from morning until night, and then I just take it off. I usually do it like in the shower because I just find it a little bit easier, but you can also do it in the bathroom. It's really not that messy. It's not that gross. It's pretty simple, and it's a lot better for you. If you look at the boxes that we get for pads and tampons, first of all, they are expensive. It's so expensive to use those sanitary products. It's bad for the environment because it's wasteful. And then also, there's ingredients and toxic chemicals in our pads and tampons. Like if you look at the box, there's a bunch of words that we cannot pronounce. The amount of ingredients in pads and in tampons is like insane. So the fact that we're just using that on our really sensitive, really like our most protected parts are having the most toxic things either pressed up against them or literally inside of them for hours on end. I do find that menstrual cups really give me peace of mind in terms of like my health and like just feeling like I'm doing the best that I can for my body as well as for the planet, and it's cheaper to my bank account, and it's just better overall. And I really am like a huge rep for menstrual cups. So I'll link the one that I use down below because I got it from Amazon and it came in a pack of 2. And I just went on TikTok and watched a bunch of videos on people explaining how to insert them, how to clean them, any tips for them. I kind of do that with everything. If I start to use something new, I'll go on TikTok and just learn as much as I can and be like, okay, I feel like I'm a pro now. I can go about my business. Talking to you guys, I feel like gave me a bit of energy. I still feel my cramping, but it's a little bit more of like a dull cramping right now. So at least we have that. The last thing that I wanted to tell you guys about is the app that I use for tracking my period. It's called Flow. I actually just signed up for the premium account today because I just wanted some more information that they had on there about cramping and about my periods, because my periods have been a little bit irregular ever since I've gotten off my birth control pill. So if you guys want a separate video on that, I can do a whole entire video talking about my experience getting off, what changes I've noticed in my body, mentally, you know, like period wise, like all that stuff. I would definitely recommend using Flow to track your periods. It's really helpful in knowing what to expect when you get your periods, understanding your body better, and maybe even seeing if there's any specific patterns that you may have, tracking your body and like the routines that your body goes through, and then becoming aware of them makes it easier to help yourself. So yeah. We're gonna sit on the floor to talk about this because why not? So my period ended about 3 days ago and I'm now in my follicular phase. This is also known as spring. And at this time I usually feel really energized. I feel very alive, alert. I want to create a lot. I want to dance. I want to sing. I want to play. I feel very youthful and energized. It's just the best word that I can give it. But I'm going to go into more depth on what exactly you can expect during this phase, how to treat your body best during this phase, the foods that I like to eat during this phase, the exercise that I do, and all of that other stuff. So let's get into that. I'm going to talk a bit about what you can expect now being in my spring, which is a lot about, you know, creating new life, having new energy, starting new projects. It's like the beginning of everything. And so this is a time where I usually have a lot of energy. I have a lot more livelihood in me. I feel like if you even compare my energy from the last clip until now. So the exercises that are said to be the best during this time are things like hiking or dancing or doing yoga. A lot of high energy workouts would be really good for right now, and being in nature and things like that. I also really enjoy doing a lot of creative work during this time, and it's interesting because although this is stuff that I've now noted, it also just happens to be things that happen naturally. Like, all of this isn't to start doing this new thing or to take on more or to become better. You're doing this just to become aware of the fact that this is your body's best way of working. We know that the society that we live in and capitalism in general is really focused on making us work from 9 to 5 or from having a schedule that's really structured around the male body. But when you're able to look at our bodies as females and realize that we are just literally set up differently, we have moments when we're a lot better at doing certain things and moments when we really just aren't able to show up as our best at certain times of the month. And if we're able to become familiar with it, we're really being able to like work with our body and get the most out of ourselves and show up the best for ourselves and have more empathy for ourselves. This isn't to start to do a new thing. If anything, it's just to show up better. Another thing I really find myself doing during this time is learning and researching. I'm a very curious person and I like to learn about a lot of different topics if they interest me. So this is a lot of the times where I'll find myself finding something new that I'm interested in, or starting a new project, or finding a new topic that I all of a sudden want to research. Now, foods online, I've seen that the best foods to eat during this time are energizing, lighter foods. So it says that that would be like avocado, nut butter, flax seeds, chicken, eggs, broccoli, very spring-like foods. I feel like it all just seems so easy when you think about it in terms of seasons, because it all just really relates really well. So that makes it a lot easier. I like to think of it almost as we just went through this like grieving process and now we are looking at like new life, new opportunities, and being able to like start this entire new cycle over, start a new month in certain terms. Even though it might not be like, you know, the first of the month that you are in this phase, it is technically a new month on your body's clock. And so I just like to look at it in that way and start to kind of like set goals and look at what I want to do. And I just get really, really motivated at this time. So I really like to like feed into that and play off of that and get the most that I can for myself during this time. Hi guys, we are now in our summer phase. I'm in my ovulation phase right now and I'm gonna talk to you guys about what that looks like. In this phase, I like to refer to it as summer. This is the time when you're feeling the most awake and alive and confident and beautiful and powerful, and you just feel like you're on top of the world and like you could do anything. This is the time where you want to be social, you want to, you know, if you have any projects where you need to film, this would be a good time to do so. Or if you need to make content, if you're a content creator, or if you have like a project meeting or anything like that, this would be when you're like really on your A game. So it's a good period to be in, and I love this part. I really truly love this part. The notes that I have written down for this are: you're at a peak. You're also good to do high intensity group workouts in the gym. You're good with being in social settings and just like doing a lot of high energy things. So you can do harder workouts if you choose to at this time. And then the food that's recommended at this time is salads, green juices, fruit, salmon, and shrimp. Again, it's like referring back to that idea of treating it like what you would eat during certain seasons. So during the summer, it makes sense to eat stuff that's cold, foods like salads and things like that, stuff that you would imagine you would eat during summer. So yeah, that's the phase that I'm in. There's not much more to say about this. I feel like you kind of know when you're in this phase. This is the phase, usually the part of the month where you feel the happiest, at least for me it is. We will talk next when I'm in the luteal phase. I'm really trying to be super gentle with myself during those phases now, and I try to be really compassionate and understanding of myself and patient and accepting of the fact that this does sometimes happen. Sometimes I do have my lows during that phase, and that it won't last forever, and that eventually I will be back to normal or back to even like this phase where I feel on top of the world. So yeah, I'll probably share a little bit more when I'm in that phase because I want to include how I'm gonna get through kind of the hard phases, and like my tips and tricks and things like that. So yeah. I am now in my luteal phase. Today I'm actually not feeling super bad. I'm okay. Yesterday, on the other hand, was the day that made me realize I was in my luteal phase because I was just down, you know? But it's okay because it won't last forever. I have some notes on my phone of what you can expect during your luteal phase. So your luteal phase is like fall. It's basically before you go into your winter. So it's kind of, you know, when everything is, I think actually in your body, it's the time when your egg releases. So like a literal fall, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. I wrote that your body is depressed for no pregnancy and is basically grieving. So as I was saying before, our bodies do work for us, but they also have like a function that they just run on. Like for example, our heart has the job of continuously beating blood throughout our body, or our brain has the continuous job of reminding our heart to beat, or our, you know, nose to breathe, or our mouths to move, or our skin to sweat, like, you know what I mean? Our body has natural functions for things, and I think that as women, our bodies naturally are pushed towards getting pregnant. And I'm not saying that that means that every woman has to be pregnant or has to get pregnant at some point in their life. I don't agree with that at all. And I don't think that every woman has to be like a mother in order to be a woman. Like, I just don't agree with that. But I do think that our bodies function, especially at certain ages in our life, is pushed towards trying to get pregnant because that's kind of like our body's goal, at least for our reproductive system, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense and that's not coming across as me saying that everyone needs to get pregnant, because that is not what I'm saying at all. I do see this time of my month as my body kind of being depressed and grieving the fact that it didn't get pregnant, and that like that whole entire process that it just did was for nothing kind of, and wasted, and it's just kind of like nothing really came of it. That's just how I see it. I mean, obviously this is just like a really deep take on periods, but I don't know, I just feel like it's an interesting way to see it as our body, like even our ovulation phase. I don't even think I talked much about it when I was in the phase, but your body is literally looking better and acting better and is more sociable and higher mood and more energetic, all because you're trying to attract a male or a match in order to get pregnant. Like, your body is literally driven to have sex during that time so that you can get pregnant, because that's the time where you are fertile and when you can get pregnant. So to me, it just makes sense that when we have the time that our body realizes that we're not pregnant, and the fact that we also happen to be really low at that time in all of our, I think it's our progestogen spikes, I'm pretty sure, and our estrogen spikes. I don't know, one of the hormones goes higher, and I just think it's kind of interesting if you think about it in a way of our body grieving. Just like a take on it. Obviously it's just a theory, not actually saying it's fact. But during this time, it's good to do a lot of restorative stuff. So you can do things like yoga, walks are good, eating comfort foods, eat more carbs, and you might have a lot of sugar cravings. And it's actually interesting because I was watching this TikTok of this woman explaining to the guy that she was talking to about why we crave carbs during the week before our period. And it's because we have a lot of progesterone. I hope I'm saying that right. But we have a spike in progesterone, and in order to be able to sustain that hormone, we have to have a lot of carbs in order to have the energy for it. So we're not just craving sugars and carbs and like all of those like heavier foods for no reason. It's actually because our body is trying to set us up for success, which is always the case. I just think that's so interesting. And then I just wrote here, rest, rest, rest. This is the time where I can be very critical of myself. I can also be kind of moody or just down low energy. I get tired a lot faster. I just am not feeling 100% during this time. And it comes and goes. Like, I'm not saying every day is like a low phase. It's just like typically this is the week where I can expect that I need to be a little bit more gentle with myself. So I try and just make it a big reminder for myself that it's okay to rest and that I don't have to be like angry at myself for being tired. Like, that's just what my body feels. It's really important for me to remember to eat all of my meals during this time and to just like stay up to date with my self-care and drinking enough water and getting out in nature and eating enough meals, eating enough food, not just eating bad food, but also eating food that are actually going to make me feel good. That's kind of where I'm at during this phase. And then the next phase is my period, which you guys saw at the beginning of this video. But I do think it's also really interesting because a lot of females aren't aware, and I myself wasn't aware until literally this year, of what's going on in my body throughout this entire month, every single month. We just aren't really taught that. We're taught of how to manage our periods, like, you know, to use tampons or use pads or whatever, but we aren't taught what's actually going on hormone-wise and like when we need to be gentler with ourselves, or like that it's normal to feel low during this period. And so yeah, I just think there's a lot that we can learn, and I think that social media is a really great way to be able to learn about all that stuff. But I'll talk to you guys in the next video. That's basically all that I have. So I really hope you guys enjoyed coming along with me for the entire month. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, by the way, if you are new here, please subscribe to my channel. If this is your first video seeing me, or if this is your third and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I really, 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 really appreciate it. I am hoping to grow my channel, and I want to have a strong, loving, open community on here, and I really feel like I'm starting to develop that, and I would love for you guys to join. So yeah, subscribe. Also like the video. It really helps me out and helps YouTube to push my channel because it shows that you're engaged with the video. And if you've watched until the end, that also really helps to push my channel and show YouTube that, you know, you guys are actually interested for the whole entire time and that you're not just like clicking off. So if you care about any of that, like, subscribe, comment. That was a really long explanation, but love you guys. Bye.